All right. Hey, everybody. Hey there. It's Bree Bear, and welcome to the first live show for the Avengers Initiative Reading Challenge. I'm here with some really lovely people who are doing this challenge with me that we created together, and we are all hosting it. And so I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves. Let's start with Brianna.
Hello, I'm Brianna from the channel Coffee Books and Bullet Journals. I'm an omnivore reader, so I read pretty much everything. And I'm very red today because there's a heat lamp here because there are 13 puppies around me.
I like just leaving it at that. There's 13 puppies here. Yeah.
Sorry, that was I got you, Christine. Anyways.
I'm like, what is everybody laughing at? Okay.
Margaret's laughing at me.
I'm laughing at Christine.
Okay. I
Who
guess
volunteered to go next.
Yeah, I'll go next.
ahead,
Hey, this is Christine from the other Christine that reads. I read a lot of fantasy and historical fiction, or not historical nonfiction. And
You rant about historical fiction.
yeah, and I complain about historical fiction, and I talk a lot about my golden retrievers. And you probably know me from this challenge. The Discord.
All right. And Michelle, go ahead.
Okay. Hey, Honey Rush Day. My name is Michelle from Thor Wants Another Letter, and I don't know. Hi.
Oh, there goes Brianna. Hello, I'm Margaret. I'm from The Word Nerd, as you can see at the bottom of your screen, and I talk about books and Batman. More books than Batman at the moment, but I'm here doing a Marvel readathon, so there will be more comics in my future, in theory. Not Batman, though, because Marvel.
Say you're being a traitor, I guess.
I'm sorry, DC is better.
What a way to start off the live shows. God.
Wow. You have been demoted to clearance level 0?
Hi, guess who's in charge of the clearance levels?
Ooh.
Oh, man.
I love Bruce Wayne, but I also love Steve Rogers. So this is not the why Marvel is better. Well, anyways, there's a whole bunch of this is not why DC is better than Marvel. This is talking about how Marvel just slammed it in the movie category because DC can't get their shit together.
I mean, fair.
They need to hire me. Anyways, technically, I'm cheating on DC with you guys.
I'd be lucky to have you.
At least you have somebody better to cheat with.
Anyways, this is Bucky Barnes.
I love him so much.
So good.
Is that mom? Is mom trying to get your attention?
No, that was Michelle. I think.
Yeah, that's my dog. I'm sorry.
How did I not know Michelle had a dog?
Yeah, you have a dog?
Yeah. Our German Shepherd Black Lab mix.
All we do is talk about dogs.
Right? We should just have
about everything.
I have my sister's dog and my dog, which my sister's dog is just laying dramatically on my little beanbag chair and acting like he's distraught. He just wants to love him. So this month we released the first 7 character boards for Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, Black Widow, Hawkeye,
Fury and Hawkeye.
And so did anybody, what boards did y'all work on, and did you finish any boards? We'll start again with Brianna.
So I think I've started all of the boards because categories chooses my books for me, not the other way around. And so I kind of just have to go with what that happened, like how that happens. But I've finished Captain America's board, and then Slay will finish Hulk's board for me.
Gotcha. Awesome. Christine?
I intended to start off the month by finishing Black Widow first. It didn't happen. I finished Captain, and then I am 1 away from being done Thor and 2 away from being done Nick Fury.
Gotcha. Michelle?
So my reading month did not start off very well. So I have not finished anything, but I did like make these bullet journaling thingies for myself. So
Fun.
That's cute. How about you, Margaret?
So, anyways, so I have definitely started all of them because I read Legendborn, obviously. Let's see, so with Legendborn, I finished 2 for Cap's board, 2 for Thor's board, and 1 for Hulk's. I need to finish 1 more book, and I've got, who is it? Cap done. I have done Cap.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to try and see if I don't think I'm going to finish any other boards by the end of the month, but we're going to finish Cap by the end of oh no, I have 2 books to finish for Cap. I don't know if we're going to have any boards finished by the end of the month. So
I totally agree.
Gotcha.
yeah,
For that.
I don't know.
I didn't finish anything either. I actually only read 3 books. Oh, Teddy. I only read 3 books this month. So don't know, like in the middle of the month I got super stressed and it just kind of it didn't work out from there. But I started on Black Widow was my goal to finish, and I'm in the middle of the last book for that one. I only have 1 more book for Cap, and I think there's 2 books for Fury. So I'm like kind of close on some of them, but not fully done. Because like I'm of the way that I'm going to use some of the rewards and stuff. So
yeah,
and like the way that I'm going to use the group books. So once I read Slay, then that will complete some of them. So like I'm saying that I'm close on some of them just because I know I'm going to be almost done with them. So I'm going to say it counts as close. So for the beginning of this, we did do like the kickoff readathon. So we started on the very first of the year doing a kickoff for everything with 24-hour readathon. So did you what did y'all read? Did you finish any books?
That was like a month ago.
Fair point.
Let me consult the historical
hold on,
record.
I gotta go. Let me go get my phone because that's where I keep track of things.
On January 1st, I finished We Need New Names by Nova Violet Bulawayo, which was, I counted it towards Captain America's board, and then when I finished Captain America, I used it towards Iron Man's board.
All right, so let me see. I think I started 3 books that weekend. Let me see. When did I start Chain of Gold, Christine?
Oh, when did you start screaming at me via Twitter?
I don't know.
It feels like years ago now.
Okay, definitely. No, not that one. I think I started Chain of Gold. I know I started Legendborn and the Black Cabinet like that weekend, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. My phone's not working right now. Why are you not working, dear Bookly? Someone else talk.
I don't think I finished in the 24 hours, but I did read Accurate Eve Brown for board, and I finished it in that weekend, but I don't think I finished it in the 24 hours.
Yeah, none of them were finished in that 24 hours. There we go. It's working now. Okay, so no. And okay, so the only one I started was Chain of Gold on the 1st, I'm pretty sure. And Legendborn. I guess I could have just looked at my Bookstagram because Chain of Gold and Legendborn. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I did not finish anything personally. Anne Marie over here, just
yeah.
Wow.
No, not
Really
no.
knocking it out of the park.
Your secrets, Anne Marie. We need them now.
Anne Marie and I were discussing it on Messenger because we know each other in real life, and she has it all planned out so that she could finish them, like all the boards, with like the minimal number of books. Like she planned this shit. I'm just picking up books as they come.
Yeah.
Yeah, I planned as well because I'm trying to stick to like no more than 3 books to a board, except for Caps, because with Caps board, I can then use that book for later.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
Killed it, Mitchell.
Nice, Mitchell. That's awesome. Yeah, I did not finish. Well, actually, I did the readathon, did my last book of 2020 during the readathon is what I did. I didn't finish that book, and I still wanted to count it for 2020, so I would round
Right.
out, have a nice even number. So,
mm-hmm.
so I finished that book, and I started The Little Prince,
Nice.
and I didn't even finish it because I was too sleepy. So I didn't even finish that. And it's like it's less than 200 pages, and I could have finished it, and I did not. So that was my 24-hour readathon, but it's fine. It's fine.
There we go.
Hulk's a good one to start with.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm excited about the ones that I picked for my Hulk board because it's like a fun board, I think.
I think at this point I have the most finished for Thor because I had to read Bitter Blue.
Yeah.
And then I finished Legendborn.
Bitter Blue
I know
like
it.
wiped Thor's board. It was great.
Yeah. So I still need to find a book that's got Vikings and depression.
So here's what I'm doing.
Some
I only have Vikings left for Thor.
I was
And
going to say,
I love that.
I'm reading 2 I have my 2 picked for Nick Fury, and then Nick Fury allows you to remove a prompt. So I'm gonna like get rid of the Viking prompt
What about
because like
Magnus Chase?
Wait, what?
yeah, you get to like knock off 1 prompt off another character's board if you finish Nick Fury.
No, Nick is to complete a boss battle without execution.
Have I been reading it wrong?
Thor's is to lightning strike. 1
a
prompt.
prompt. Yeah.
So I had it backwards.
Oh,
Which is really
Never mind, Margaret.
Reading for it.
I'm gonna
I'm
have
not
to remember
confused.
Vikings.
Yeah. Listen, so, I think Legendborn actually would count for depression as well, just because of what Bree is going through. So maybe I only need to find a book for Vikings.
Yeah.
That's where I am.
When I'm
then.
talking about like a kid's book.
Well, one of the books I want to read, it just came out on the 21st, is Viking themed, but it also is about a girl who's like lost her entire tribe. And so she's having to deal with that. And I'm just like, oh, okay. Maybe that'll have what I need in it. Because it's about grief.
I took a history of Vikings class in university and it was really bad. And so I keep trying to find a nonfiction book about Vikings. And every time I do, I'm like triggered. I'm like, no, I can't go back to this place of Icelandic nonsense. Like, oh.
I was reading Beyond the Darkened Shore, and that would have counted for Vikings. But like, I don't know if it was the narrator or the book, but it just was not working for me. And I was like, I do not want to read this book. So I DNF'd it, and I'm like, we'll go back when I'm like reading it. So, Sky in the Deep is one of mine that I might read if I can't get my hands on that other one because I've been meaning to read it for a while.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Which
do
one is
Sky
that?
board because it does like I think 2 or 3 prompts on
Yeah.
the board because it's like about siblings, and I think there was something else I can't remember.
I think the Vanishing Half is supposed to cover siblings for me.
Yeah.
So, who is that?
So
I'm
before,
pretty sure.
yeah, go ahead.
I think this is.
Aww.
He's dumb and he gets lost.
Boy dogs.
You know,
Hi.
fair. So before we get into the movies, I do want to mention that we are going to be full spoilers for both Captain America, the first Avenger, and Captain Marvel, but we're not going to do spoilers for any of the future movies that we haven't done yet. So just in case you're in the chat and you want to know, that's what we're going to be doing for the movies. And then we're going to have a spoiler-free section for the book. And then after we get through all of that, I'll warn you before we go into spoilers for the book. So if you haven't finished the book, don't worry. You can watch most of it. And then we'll do the spoilers at the end for the book. So that's the plan. So as far as the movie goes, I'm going to pass it to Christine first because this first movie, Captain America, is very history heavy. So I'm going to let her say anything she wants to say about history, plot, anything like that. So Go for it.
Well, I thought about this a lot in the shower this morning.
The best place
I
to think.
appreciate that detail.
Yeah, I thought so. And I guess what I was thinking of with actually both movies that I wanted to maybe tie together is because here's the thing. I love Marvel and I don't actually want to critique Marvel. Like I'm very much
But-
like a don't look at it. Like just watch it and enjoy. But I am a historian, and what I will say is really interesting is how the villains are represented in the movies where the heroes are military. When we look at the Marvel universe overall, there's some really sympathetic, interesting villains. I'm thinking Loki. I'm thinking Eric Killmonger. I'm thinking Ultron, but that might just be me.
Yes, that is just you.
Okay.
I like Ultron.
It's okay. We all know I'm robosexual. But the other...
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was like, Christine's not sitting there going, because he's a good villain. Christine.
But I think that what's really interesting is when we have Captain Marvel and we have Captain America, especially Captain America, the villains are really maniacally evil for like no discernible like good reason. You can't give them a whole like a understandable sympathetic reason. If you can unpack that a little bit, like if you're sitting there like, no, I see where Red Skull was coming from, you need to unpack that.
Not for Red Skull. I see where kind of Jan Rog is coming from, but that ties into one of my later points. So
space colonists.
Like part of it is it because the Captain America was like the first kind of story, and so like gone farther in, and it's interesting because Captain America and Captain Marvel are like on the opposite production timelines, and so maybe we just don't have as well of a developed villain, because I think that Jan Rog is developed. I mean, the Kree in general, I feel like are developed.
Well, I was thinking the Supreme Intelligence, mostly is like actually not a human, so you cannot make them a humane villain in that way.
Like the Kree as a whole, and like the Supreme Being was just a portion of that.
I wonder how much of that had to do with Red Skull being an actual literal Nazi and them
like
not wanting to like
Nazi.
humanize Nazis.
Right.
No, and I get that, but that's what I'm saying is when we look like historically at the time period that specifically Captain America is focusing on, the movie deals a lot with human experimentation, and that of course isn't singular to the Nazis.
No.
That's not something that only like we have this horrible reality but story told of Nazi experimentation, but there was experimentation also in the United States and in Canada and everywhere else, but it wasn't being done to white people. And I think that's what, for me, when I think about those movies, I think about, well, why when they're the military, when they're these military characters, are their villains so uncomplicated? And I really think like, to me, I think it might be why I like future movies more, even though Captain America and Bucky they're my favorite. I think that's why sometimes I'm like, this movie's being spoon fed to me. And I guess that's kind of when I think about interlocking historical themes with both those movies. That's where I'm at.
I wonder how much of that has to do with the human penchant to, like, especially when war is involved, want a clear black and white. Like, these are the good guys, these are the bad guys to an extent, especially dying? Like with Captain America. So.
Yeah, and honestly, I think throughout Marvel, that is something that, you know, most of the villains don't really have that, like, really understandable. You know, I think like it's not until I can only think of one or two that are really, you know, where you can understand where they're coming from.
Ooh, Jessica has a good quote down here. History is written by the winners. The good guys don't always win.
Yeah.
That is very, very true.
Yeah. 100%.
Hi, it's the United States. Yeah. My mother is downstairs. I can say these things.
Everything in the United States. Let's be real. Christine, did you have any other points that you wanted to?
I guess maybe like I can touch on history stuff like as we move on, but I think that was like my main spiel was that like of course we can talk so much about like the over glorified narrative of World War II, and I personally don't like talking about World War II as a historian very much. I think it's very like, but yeah, what I'm interested in there is those depictions of human experimentation and you know, like why was like are we really to believe that Cap's the first person they tried it on and it was successful and there's not 100 dead people of color that they tried it on first? Like no, but they're not going to show that kind of stuff, right? So that's kind of where my mind goes to with both those movies because Carol's a bit of an experiment too.
True. And an unintentional one, yes.
Yeah.
But the way that they used it when they, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
They like kind of abused her lack of memory and everything and used her. So that's a good point. Any other thoughts on history plot things from anybody else, or do we want to move to the?
I was gonna say some of what Christine's been talking about bleeds into one of my points. If we want to go into that, but we can save it.
Yeah, go right ahead.
So, because Christine's talking about like the military and the villains, and one of the things that I noticed is how. Sorry, I don't want to have that discussion right now. How the military is portrayed in Captain America versus Captain Marvel, because Captain America is very much the boys movie, World War II, the Americans are good, serve your country. Like there was so much military propaganda, and there's always going to be in Marvel movies because they're like in contract with the military. Yes, exactly. And I know like part of it is because some of this is accurate, but then we get to Captain Marvel and there's a lot more critique of the military industrial complex in Captain Marvel than there is in Captain America, because it's very, very like, and I don't know how much of this is because we're not dealing with the United States. Like if Captain Marvel was, you know, working for the US, that might be a different thing. But that just kind of struck me as how like we're much more critical about, there are obvious parallels to the wars that the United States has been involved in recently in that movie. Like I was
she's frozen.
Did you
Syria the entire time and all of that. Oh, okay. Where did I leave off?
Parallel Syria.
Yes.
Those are the two words we got.
Okay, that was kind of what I was kind of thinking of when we're talking about the Skrull and the fact that they're refugees, and like they didn't ask for this war, a lot of them, but they're caught in this war between the two powers. And I think that was as close as we're going to get to anti-military in a Marvel movie, but it just kind of raised the question of like the contrast between the two of them, which I thought was really cool. And then like, would we have been able to make Captain Marvel with that storyline when we made Captain America?
I think a lot of it goes down to the gender of the creators personally, of the different characters, but
yeah,
that's me.
I think there's a lot in there. But like linking back to Jan Rog, some of to me, I understand a little bit of why he's making the choices he's making, because he has been raised in that culture. Like that's the culture I was raised in. And so I said like he's wrong.
Yeah.
But like I understand, like he's been taught you serve your country. Like he's been taught all the things Captain America was taught. By all rights, that's who Steve Rogers should be.
Our nationalism is much different in Canada.
So, yeah, I really like the way that you thought about that, because I hadn't really thought about like I hadn't taken the time to compare the two.
So,
as far
anyways,
as
that was just an interesting
viewpoint.
Yeah. Well, because watching Captain America. Oh, me? Am I back?
Yeah.
Okay. Try again. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say watching Captain America, like I'm cringing so many times when I'm like, oh, but that's like your highest calling is not to serve your country like that. Like you don't have to go out and die to be of use to people. And like, yeah, I have friends in the military and I really respect the soldiers. I don't respect like the government institution. Before anybody gets worried about me. But like, just the more you yeah, it just was like seeing all. I'm just like, oh wow, I didn't pick up on any of this when this first came out, and I didn't pick up on a lot of it in Captain Marvel. Yes, I love him. He is the only one who should ever be in charge of the military.
And Sam.
Yeah, Sam would make good choices too.
Margaret,
But we don't know who that is yet because we're not spoiling future movies.
I'm just saying, this random person that we don't know would
Named
only
Sam.
ever make good choices.
Yes.
Margaret, did you have any other thoughts that you wanted to bring up? That one?
That was mostly that contrast between the two movies and like just being like, oh, look how far they've come.
Yeah, 100%. So Brianna, themes, characters, stuff like that.
Well, I mean, I think it's always like Captain America is always like known for like his black and white morality.
Yeah.
And so I actually kind of thought when I was trying to like basically compare the two, like Steve like always has known what's right and wrong, even before he was Captain America. So like even before like when he was the one being bullied, he would still like stand up for what was wrong. Fair. But then like in Captain Marvel, it was really interesting because like she thought she knew what was right and wrong.
Yeah.
That completely got flipped up on its head. And then like she had to basically like rethink her whole life.
I found that so relatable.
Right? Right?
And I think it made her a more compelling protagonist. Not that I want to... Again, I love Captain America, but I think that it made her more interesting.
Well, if you look at Cap and Carol, they're a very good distinction between a static character and a dynamic character. Because Cap is the same through the whole movie. And Carol changes from the beginning to the end.
True.
Yeah. Better writing. Indeed.
Yes.
And I think that's also like something just based on like that was the first Avengers movie. And one of the Sorry, I have runaway.
I froze again.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And about with the character development in general, yeah, I definitely would agree that, you know, that it's very different. Like in Cap, I would say it's more relationship development, and in Captain Marvel, it's
Captain Marvel.
Yeah, I couldn't words for a second there. It's definitely more.
It's the difference.
Individual growing.
Yeah. It's the difference between a plot-driven and a character-driven story, if you look at it that way.
I would argue that there's really great character development for Bucky, though, because he starts the movie off thinking he's straight and ends the movie off, well, dead, but like thinking he's bisexual, knowing he's bisexual. So I would like that. Wow, you got big. Like, okay, we know what you're talking about. Like, okay. So Bucky really had like a journey of sexuality and discovery, and that's what's really important to acknowledge, that there was that there.
That was one of my favorite moments. And he's like, I thought you were small. I thought you were dead.
For sure. And as far as characters go, I do wish that in Captain America we saw more. I do agree with what Stephanie is saying here. We don't really see the progression enough between like Peggy and Cap. I adore their relationship because it's just so pure, but we don't get to really fully experience it because we don't see it for very long, which I mean it is, you know, because of the way the movie.
You get way more Cap and Bucky.
Yeah.
True. Christine has a point.
Well, I think that's kind of how comic book movies work a lot of the time, or comic books. Stories in general. There are a lot of characters that the romance is like a side thing. It's not, the love interest is there to be the love interest, to be that trophy for the male protagonist. You don't have a lot where it's really been built up as a romance like you do. I'm trying to think of actual examples that are not DC, like Sue Storm and Reed Richards. You've got that, that in the comics. There's a lot between that. You've got Jean Grey and Scott Summers. Pete and MJ, oh my God, talk about a romance. Anyways, like in the comics, talking about the comics. But but they're much more like action oriented. They're not going to be focusing on the romantic relationships as much.
And I think that like one thing for both these films in support of that, Margaret, is that they're both comic book movies.
Yeah.
They're not trying to disrupt the genre at all.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they don't always integrate because they want that romance there, but they don't always integrate it as well as they could. We'll talk about that in later live shows.
100%. So do we have any other thoughts about characters and themes and things like that then?
Stephanie had a really good comment that they felt like Jan Raga's gaslighting, which is
yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah, that was a really good point.
I agree. That's why I say I can't sympathize with him, because he's a man that's scary. I'm like, stop it. Stop.
Oh,
This is too real.
I don't sympathize with him when Carol punches him in that movie.
That moment when think that there's gonna be a duel and she just beats the shit out of him.
I'm like, oh, but when she says I don't have to prove it to you, that became my sexuality, okay? Like, we had a moment with that moment.
That kind of leads into talking about the cinematography in general. So I'll talk about that just a little bit. If you don't know, I have a degree in film, and so I analyze a lot, and I'm very nitpicky when I'm watching things because obviously,
Yes.
I am to film as Christine is to history. There's an analogy for you, but so in Captain America, let's start with that one. There were good things and there were bad things. Cinematically, the director of photography, not so great. And so like I'm talking more about like angles and stuff like that. Not my favorite. I feel like it was okay, but it wasn't, nearly as extraordinary as in Captain Marvel to me, because of like the shots that were taken in Captain Marvel were just like so intentional, and so it's like each little clip has like a motivation to it and is like taken with like a line or a direction that like makes it interesting. So that aside, color scheme though of Captain America, I really enjoy. They desaturated it. They pulled out that 40s feel by doing that. And so I really love that element. It's such a small, choice to, choose your color palette for a movie, to the viewer, but to a person who, knows anything about visuals, you can see and appreciate that. So I really love that part of the editing. But what I don't love about the editing is the CGI.
What do you mean? Red Skull looks so real.
It hurts my soul a little bit, because if it had been made a few years later, it would have been so much better and looked so much more natural, like young and miniature version of Steve would have looked so much better.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that really stood out.
But do you remember at the time how big of a deal that was?
I know, that was like first
so
time they did it.
Yeah.
And also, can we appreciate that they did not pull a DC and just be like, well, let's just restart it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Because that they could have been like, oh, now we know how to do it. We'll just redo Captain America.
Yeah.
Right. 100% hard agree.
I do have to say the makeup work on Red Skull was really good. Yeah. Like, I know the CGI had some issues, but like I'm looking at that going, you cannot tell where the makeup parts are. Like, I was surprised they did so much on him. But yeah, that was
the only time I've ever had beef with makeup artists is with Cats. Every other movie I'm into every other movie I'm into it.
Yeah.
As far as for in Captain Marvel, editing wise, I am obsessed because it is so cleanly edited. So cleanly edited.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I had to laugh at that because, like, they're not wrong.
So wrong.
I'm just like, just give him a
like-
week off and shave the mustache.
To the point though of like time and improvement, Red Skull versus the Skrulls,
True.
night and day.
Yes.
The Skrulls look amazing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, they do.
I feel like the Skrulls had a lot of practical effects on them. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, they didn't for the Skrulls. You wouldn't have to do any CGI necessarily because you'd put that. That'd be the same as like the
Yeah.
orcs in Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. You're gonna like they're not having to erase anybody's nose. They just have to put the prosthetics on them, and you can tell they're wearing prosthetics to some extent.
But they look
it's like
good.
good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, they look really great.
Yeah.
And just in general, like the effects in it are so good, but even just the simple cuts are so like every clip that they chose to use was intentional. It was cleanly edited. There wasn't extra clips in the way covering up what was happening in the action, which I find happens a lot in Marvel movies or other action-y movies, is they'll use too many clips to the point where you can't keep up with what's happening. But like if you're watching it, your eyes know you know where that lunchbox is the whole time during that sequence. You know what's going on that whole time. Even though you cut to seeing other characters, you go to where Nick Fury is and where Goose is and all of that. But throughout all of those changes, you still know what's happening in that other sequence. And I really love that. And also the juxtaposition of the action and the intensity and the urgency that's used or that's brought forward by the cuts versus the fun music that we get to listen to while we're watching it. Like
that soundtrack is
well
amazing.
done.
Yes.
And the sounds were really good.
100%. And there was one other thing. Oh, the ability to pull emotions out of you in editing through the editing that they did because of the whole building and seeing the big turning point for Carol and her like big shift. That was really brought forward through the editing. If the editing hadn't been as good as it was, it would have fallen flat.
Yeah.
We saw a little bit of some things falling flat earlier, especially between Maria and Carol, I think could have been edited better to pull it out more. Because like the acting was there. They were in it, in the scene, but I think the editing it didn't go through the screen enough. But when we get to that growth of Carol, it goes through the screen. You're there, you know? And
that's interesting
really
because
that.
I felt like that scene in Louisiana where she's in the field and like they have that moment. That's the scene that sticks with me most through the whole movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really do love that scene because I think it pulls out the acting pulls through the most.
Yeah.
In that scene, as opposed to the part where Carol has her turning point. I think the turning point between Maria and Carol, that is the strongest acting point in the movie, in my opinion. But like editing wise and like pulling emotion through editing, I think the strongest point is Carol's, if that makes sense. So it's like I appreciate both for different reasons. But that's kind of my thoughts cinematically on both of them. You can definitely compare and see a difference in both who was working on the movies at the times and also the technology and styles of the time of film in both of them, and that's really interesting to me. Any other thoughts about that? No? Seems like we're good.
No.
Okay. I did want to take a second to talk about diversity and sensitivity in these because there's not a lot in Marvel in general. But at least have some people of color in at least one of these movies. So at least there's that. But I wanted to take a minute to talk about that. So any thoughts about that? Michelle, I did. I don't know if you got to see those messages, but
I read him. It's Soren's birthday today, so I really wasn't on social, and I've been going through things the last couple weeks, so I really haven't been on social, but I do check the messages. I do read most of them. It's all the puppy stuff, and I'm like, puppies, and then something, and I'm like, throw that away for later. But especially when it came to Captain America, I really feel like every time they do a World War II anything, I feel like they really lose a chance to talk about how people of color have, like, even people of color, women of color have done things for the war that they just don't talk about, like code talkers. That's huge. They could have had a huge code talker thing, and like indigenous characters, which there's not a lot of indigenous representation in both Marvel and DC. Just saying, they killed off Adam Beach in the first 20 minutes, so that's why I don't like DC. Sorry, Margaret. Anyway,
I don't. You're right.
It's so terrible, but that's the thing, that they could have done that. I mean, at least they had, Maria, right? That's her name.
Maria Rambo,
yeah. So that was really cool to see, like, a black pilot in this movie, and then that's all you get. That's all you get, and you have Nick Fury doing Nick Fury things, and like. I can't speak to that experience though. Yeah. So like some of that I can't, like, me personally, I always wish that there's more indigenous representation in Marvel movies, because it's like, you see almost every race in every movie so far, or the whole thing. But like so far, I haven't seen. There's no indigenous representation, so that's really my only gripe. But I just feel like they could have taken a lot of things that people of color, women of color have done for war, or for like in different parts of history, and could have put that in there, and it would have just been like, yes.
Yeah, 100%.
I agree.
I do think
Speaking of...
go ahead, Margaret.
Go ahead, finish. Speaking of Nick Fury, did anyone else feel really weird in some of the scenes with Carol and Nick? Because I'm just like, here's this white woman just bossing this guy around for no real good reason, and like not explain. I'm like, that rubbed me a little bit. I was just like, this feels uncomfortable to me, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, you definitely see that power dynamic between when they're trying to get into that facility, and she's talking, and then the other guy is hearing her, and like then they take them to the security building, but you just see that smidgen of like him taking what she is saying to as authority versus what Nick Fury is. He literally has a badge, and so you see that
he knows
the power dynamic thing, which always irritates me because it happens in real life.
That's a really solid point.
Yeah, that's exactly. I was just like, we could have been. She, like, for the most part, I love Carol as a character, but I felt like they should have toned down the snootiness just a little bit in those scenes. Just a little.
Yeah.
With him,
To be fair, like, part of it is also an actor thing, an actress, acting person's thing. Like, the way that they choose to play the scene or play the character, so to be fair, like, some of it is writing and some of it is the portrayal, which is an issue of it being a generally, a cultural issue of, just the white culture. And
I think that Nick Fury was a precious cinnamon roll and deserves to be protected at all costs in that movie. He was just so adorable.
He is.
The cat, and he's like talking to the cat, like doing baby talk, and I'm like, oh my god, protect him.
Love it.
It was nice to see Nick Fury before he became Nick Fury. That's cool. But yeah, like I think that was something, like, I know, like, from a writing and acting stand, they're gonna come up, and I am sure, especially if they already have a relationship, they probably were talking about how they wanted those scenes to go. But I just think that, like,
and they
sometimes
together on other films.
Yeah, but sometimes you've got to think about, like, okay, how is this going to look given the history we have in the world that we live in? So like I'm sitting there going, it's Samuel Jackson. If there really is an issue, he probably would have said something. Because
well, and I think Stephanie has a good point. Like, was it Stephanie that said that it was the Creed, like the super superior mentality? Because at that point, she was still trying to like rewrite her idea of what's right and wrong. She's going through that transition, and like not to spoil any future movies, but she's not nearly that way in like, is it Endgame?
Later movies.
No, like she's not that like. I'm right, you're wrong. Nobody else can do it this way. So I think that's like a mind shift that she has to like slowly get out of.
Yeah.
You also have to consider Endgame was filmed before she filmed Captain Marvel.
True.
That's true.
But you know,
so it could possibly
acting that she can go backwards.
Yeah.
But we've never seen Endgame, so
No. We have because we're clearance level 10.
Oh,
but,
right.
You know, we can't. We need to know, guys. Need to know.
So I agree with this wholeheartedly. I really think that they try. A lot of actors and actresses will try to, like, play it as humor a lot, but they don't think about the sensitivity in relation to, you know, because to them, they're
their
just
relationship
having a fun. Exactly. They're just having a fun moment together. They're not thinking about the overall, you know,
how it aligns with what's outside of the movie.
Right, exactly. Because like it's not necessarily wrong in isolation by itself, but when you compare it to things that are happening in the world and in people's real lives, you know, it can come off the wrong way. So I definitely agree with that. Are there any other thoughts that we have about the movies, other than the movies versus the comics? Do we have any other things that you want to say?
What I was going to say actually to this whole point is that I think that and anyone can feel free to disagree with me because again, it's not like my experience to draw from. I think the relationship between Carol and Maria could have been a lot worse, like dangerously worse.
Yeah.
The power dynamic is there, and I think it was not perfect, but played well. I did feel there was a genuine mutual respect between them, and not this is the black best friend trope. And Maria is a character that you respect and take seriously, and
like Maria.
But it could have easily.
I thought they were a couple.
The black.
Sorry.
But it could have easily.
Are they not a couple?
Oh, they're a couple in my mind, but that's not.
We talked about that in
a couple. Like that was giving me total sapphic vibes of like they were in love.
They're raising a daughter together. Yeah,
that's what I thought. Wait, so you're telling me that that's not
canon?
Wow,
it's not canon. Yeah,
no,
but it's so blatantly obvious. Yeah, I know.
It's Captain Marvel too.
That makes me okay. Wow, thanks a lot.
Sorry, Michelle.
Just burst my bubble.
The rest of her day processing that.
Literally, though, I mean, what reason do we have to believe that she's not sapphic?
Right?
None.
Oh, I know she's gay. I mean, she's got to be.
Yeah.
Shit.
Like that.
I mean,
you're not wrong.
Any other thoughts?
Like I got the whole vibe because when she is having like that flashback thing where she's, you know, before her transition thing, you hear a guy saying, "You kiss like a horse," and I'm like, "Oh, she's gay."
No, but she reads entirely gay. Like
I do.
Yeah, and so does
maybe
Maria.
Because I'm pansexual, maybe I don't know. I got that vibe. Oh my gosh.
Maria in the jumpsuit working on her planes or whatever. I was like,
right?
Oh man!
Wow.
Any other thoughts before we move into the comics versus the movies?
Yeah. Nope. I'm just sad.
I'm sorry. I can't tell you how the comics handle it because I know in the comics,
She's with War Machine.
She's with War Machine. I'm like, what?
I just
The relationship we never saw coming based on the movies.
I mean, it makes sense when you think about it because they're both from military backgrounds. But it was still like, wait, War Machine has his own arc?
I also like him more in the comics, so I'm more inclined to respect it.
Everyone is better in the comics, Christine.
No, I'm gonna say Iron Man is worse, even possibly worse.
That might be true. Iron Man, like peak Iron Man, is the '90s cartoon because that's my favorite Tony. I haven't watched it since I was 4, but that's my favorite Tony.
I'll give that one to you.
So, I guess that kind of segues into what I was going to talk about with the movies versus the comics. So one of the things, like, this is something that I have wish I could go back to this conversation with the 16-year-old boy who thought he knew more than I did, despite me having been reading comics for longer than he was alive. But he was sitting there trying to convince, like, well, the movies are the most important distillation because they're like, basically, you look at the movies and you're taking this whole history. And we're talking about, I think at this point, what, Christine, 90 years of history? Like Batman just hit 80 last year. So like we're talking about 80, 90 years of history and having to distill it down into one
85?
movie. Yeah, something like that. And so it's just interesting to see how they do that because basically what you're getting when you're watching a Marvel movie is you're getting the Cliff Notes version of that character. Like there's so much that like, because we talk about how you're not able to necessarily go into depth and nuance with the villains and sometimes with the characters. And it's because you're having to distill all of this. And you have, when you're looking at comics, you have different eras. And so they will actually change characterization through their different eras. I can't break that down with any Marvel characters. I could with DC, but like they will change their distillation, their characterization through different eras and they evolve. And so you're having to take all of that and put it into one little movie. And I think they've actually done, the one I know best is Iron Man. And in Iron Man, I thought they did actually, they've done a pretty decent job. So I think like with Marvel and Captain America, I feel like they probably did a pretty okay job as well. But I just thought that was interesting that like, it's the Cliff Notes version.
I will say they took Chewbacca the cat and made Goose, which is a big difference. A big difference.
Well, I haven't read Captain Marvel, so I can't speak on that one.
Chewbacca is Carol's cat.
I'm sitting there going, yeah, I was going to be like, wait, why would they have changed the name? But no, they probably can't have, it's probably harder to pass off Chewbacca the cat in a Marvel movie and then it is in the comics.
Yeah.
But yeah, comics have a little bit more, like, that's also like TV versus movie. Like they have a little more room to go into things and to explore the background of the villains. Though I do agree with you, Christine, that they don't go into the villains as much in Marvel as they do in some other properties that I will not name again.
Well, some Marvel movies really do. Like I think Black Panther is an example of a Marvel movie where the villain is incredibly well done. But
if you look at like from what I have read in the comics, and I haven't read as much Marvel, like the villains tend to, I think the closest the most sympathetic villain you've got in Marvel, is probably Magneto.
Magneto's not a villain. Shut your dirty mouth.
He's an it depends on which era of X-Men we're talking about, ma'am.
Argue with somebody who cares about that opinion because
but like, so call him a villain, call him an anti-hero. Magneto is the one that you see probably being able to root for the most when it comes to the comics, not necessarily the movies. That is not wrong, but like you can be sexy and be evil.
Fair.
And he's neither. I mean, he is sexy. He is sexy. He's not evil. That's what I meant. I love Magneto. I would also say Red Skull's daughter is somewhat sympathetic, if not insane.
They always do that with the villains, and the villains have a daughter, and then she's nuts. It's
And
like,
then she's nuts because she realizes she's Red Skull's daughter, and she's
I'm
and
sorry,
then-
that's not how it works when you realize your parents are evil. That you just get depressed. You don't go
so
crazy.
you end up strapping Sam and Natasha to the Statue of Liberty and trying to blow them up.
Well, like, and let's be real too, though. Like, everybody at some point realizes that they don't have the same opinion as their parents. You know?
True
So,
facts.
when you portray that in a way that is more relatable and shows a healthier response to that,
Yeah.
like, maybe. 'Cause, like, I don't think anybody expects you to have a solid, perfect relationship with your parents all the time.
Yeah.
Or to have the same, you know, perfectly matching opinions. So maybe let's, I don't know, use that as a way to show character and relationship development instead of just turning it into really bad mental health representation.
Yeah. I can't speak for the show, but Runaways does that really well in the. Oh, we lost Margaret back. I hear puppies. I think.
Yeah.
Maybe I hear somebody.
Back, and there are puppies.
I'm back. Yeah, I know. There are more puppies than I can wrap my head around. Yeah, Spider-Man does the thing that Batman does, where they really do a good job of humanizing the villains. And I think part of that is because of, we'll talk about it later, but Spider-Man in the comics at his core. When we get to those movies, I have thoughts. But what was I saying? And Runaways does a really good job of that kind of parent thing, if you read the comics.
Runaways does, yeah.
Yeah, I think that any good villain has to be where you can understand why they are the way they are. You know, you don't have to agree. Like, it could be, you know, they just have messed up viewpoints, or they could have had some sort of experience that, you know, caused them to have those viewpoints. But, like, you know, or they could just be, you know,
a Nazi.
Really, yeah. But at the end of the day, there's a reason why they are that way. You know, they are a Nazi because they were lied to. They have a messed up perspective on life, on people. You know,
that one comes down a lot of the time to needing to be superior.
Yeah.
So, I think that's interesting that we demand so much nuance from our fictional villains. But then you'll look at some of the historical villains we have, and like I listened to a history podcast, and some of the historical villains you'll see, you're like, if someone were writing this, I would say it's way too on the nose.
But we give I think we give historical villains way too much introspection. He didn't get into art school. Oh my goodness! No, doesn't matter.
Yeah, we're not talking about him. We're talking about people like Phyllis Schlafly, who's responsible for how our politics are, or stuff like that. But like, there will be it's interesting because there's a much greater range of like, why did this person do what they did, and like people being inexplicably evil a lot of the time in real life than there are. Because we can't know their insides.
I get it for stories because it's a story.
Yeah.
But like when it's actual history, and there's some historians who are just obsessed with biographies of bad people. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, good for you.
100%. So we also have the boss battles for the month. So our first boss battle was against Red Skull, and it was for recommendations. So we have a thread on Twitter and on Discord where you can go and find everybody's recommendations. Hardcore suggests that you go and look through those because like there are so many prompts that you're going to find something that interests you in the prompts, and then you can find all these recommendations on that. So hardcore recommend checking out those threads if you didn't get to participate.
If you're looking for the Red Skull thread, just note it is in the archive section because I am trying to keep things relatively uncluttered in the Discord. So it's all the way at the bottom, and I should probably unlock it. So I will do that after the live show.
And then the other one we did was Leon Rog, which was this week, and it was to do your origin story. And I cannot wait to go through and read everybody's, but just from what I got to see popping up, like I just really enjoy how much we focused on like books from childhood that we loved, because a lot of times when you get prompts like that, I feel like we talk about books like that we've read, you know, since we were teens that, you know, spurred a love or like reignited a love. But like we all kind of went way back. And I really enjoyed like seeing comments about Junie B. Jones and all of that. Like it made my heart happy. But that was a lot of fun. And so make sure that you have your notifications for the announcement thread on Discord and the Twitter on, so that you don't miss when the boss battles come up, so that you can participate, because you get really awesome rewards. So there's that. For everything other than the book, I think is covered, right?
Yeah.
We need to take a formal moment to talk like more about Bucky Barnes, I think.
You mean the one that Brianna has, right? We're talking about the puppy.
Both. I'm interested in both.
So that said, we're going to move into our special mission this month was to read Legendborn by Tracy Dion. Yeah, this one. And the reward or like the item that you got to collect was Captain America's shield. So really quick, spoiler-free things. A quick synopsis is that it's about a girl that goes to an early college after her mom's death and discovers a secret society, magic, and memories that make her question what really happened to her mother. That's basically a quick rundown of what happens. Oh, I forgot to say it's an Arthurian secret society. That's important. So that's kind of
what got me. I was like, oh, Arthur.
Right? I meant to put that in because it's kind of like a buzzword. But I forgot. I had to like arrow it down on my little note.
That's such a good synopsis. In my review, I'm like, so like she did this and this happened. Like your synopsis is so concise.
Thank you. I'm trying my best to work on making good synopses because it's difficult. And I want to be able to talk about books.
Yeah, it is.
In 50 years talking about each part of the things that which I'm terrible about. So it's a work in progress. So I appreciate that you appreciated it.
Yeah,
I do.
Jessica has a point that before we go on to the spoiler section, if there are any announcements that we want to make, we should make those before the spoiler section.
That is a good point. We will definitely do that.
I mean, they'll be on the Discord after this as well.
True.
Yeah.
So
announcements real quick would be the February special mission item. That is going to be the reactor.
Woo!
So to collect the arc reactor, make sure that you read Slay by Brittany
Morrison.
Brittany Morris. I couldn't remember all the names.
Grabbed that.
I know I should have too.
Oh, there we go. Michelle's like, here, I'll give it to you.
Michelle's ready.
Yeah.
So that is going to be for next month.
Were we also going to announce how you get to clearance level 4? Because we can announce that one as well. I have that figured out.
I'm so confused by the clearance levels, Margaret. It's so beyond me. I'm like,
yeah, same.
You're like, yeah,
okay. So if you haven't been in the Discord, there are clearance levels. You have to have clearance level 1 to even like access anything. That is the only clearance level you absolutely have to have. Like you can jump to other ones by doing things. But for clearance level 4, because you will be able to get it in February, I think we decided that you have to win 4 boss battles. So if you've won 4 boss battles, once we've done our 4th boss battle, we will have something in there so that you can, but just so you know, like the sooner you win 4 boss battles, the sooner you can get to level 4.
And the last like announcement thing is I will have all of the channels for everybody linked down below. So make sure you subscribe to everybody because the live shows will be on everybody's different channels. So you don't want to be not subscribed because A, you're missing out already. And B, you will be missing out in the future too. So just do yourself a favor. Go hit subscribe on everybody's channel. And again, the one that you're on right now, because that's where everything is going to be.
Yep. And
so
who
announcement-y things?
I was gonna say, who
What
do we want to
movies
say
now?
who's?
Yeah, we can. The next one will be on Thor Wants Another Letter. It'll be on Michelle's channel. So make sure that you go subscribe. Okay.
Should
so
we
that's-
share the order that we're doing them in, like how we decided? Because this was
Yeah, I think that's a
this
great
was-
idea, actually.
I don't even remember how we decided. I'm
We're
just-
doing
Birthdays, because I'm going last, as usual. No, I'm just kidding.
That's right.
We couldn't decide what order we should go like per channel. So we
I'm sorry, I had suggestions.
Christine was like, birthday. We should go by birthday. So that's how we decided. So yeah, that's all of our announcements. So we're gonna go back to the bookish things. We are gonna do a little bit more spoiler-free stuff. So hang
Wait,
in.
what movies are we watching?
Oh,
Iron
next
Man 1
month.
and Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
Oh
What?
yeah.
It'll be great.
Christine is in pain right now.
It'll be
You all
so
talked at
good.
once, so I'm like, wait, what did you say?
Iron Man 1 and 2.
Oh, okay.
My
Great.
favorite Avenger.
I'm looking forward to it.
We're getting it over with at the beginning of the year.
I
So
know.
you don't have to do it later.
I feel the need to point out that Iron Man is only Christine's favorite Avenger because Bucky spends most of the time not an Avenger. So it's the only reason.
How dare you say anything negative about Bucky? Like
I'm just saying, he doesn't get promoted until like the very end.
Wait. It's Captain America and the first
Spoilers!
Avenger. The first Avenger being Bucky.
I think it's
Yeah.
Captain
Oh my
America.
God, Christine, that's not how the title goes.
That is awesome.
I remember being so excited about these next two movies, or that the first one when it came out, because I was like, my childhood. We're gonna see how I feel
honestly
rewatching
understand it because when it came out, I was 11 years old. The first Iron Man movie, and I genuinely thought it was about the song by Black Sabbath. I thought it was a movie
my
with the
God, I
song
feel
by Black
really
Sabbath.
old, man.
The fact that you didn't understand Iron Man, but you know Black Sabbath at 11.
Right?
Mm.
Yeah, what the heck?
Says something about my father. Yes, it does.
So for the spoiler-free section of Legendborn, I wanted everybody to give like a general rating and say if you are going to continue this series.
5 stars, of course.
I don't have a rating yet because I only got 50 pages into it because, like I said, I didn't have a great start to the month, and then I was like, hey, I did not get to this book. And then Margaret was like, well, what about the audiobook? And I was like, I would be useless. I would have been like, I listened to it and I can't tell you what happened. Because it just
I can only tell you one thing right now because I just finished it, and I, as someone who is an Arthurian Legends geek,
Your soul cannot.
there will be yelling later on because there's no way I can talk about this without shouting.
Oh,
What about Brianna and Christine? What were y'all's ratings?
I
5
gave it
stars.
4.5.
Yeah, I'm
Brianna, I
4.5.
need to know why that 5-star. I need a full-length essay.
wait, I think I did.
Yeah, no, I don't
Again,
have
let me.
You
let me
need
check the
to. We
historical record.
need you to justify this. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I gave it 5 stars. I did an actual
so-
review.
That's actually kind of a spoiler, so I'll...
Okay,
Yeah.
never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can get into that in a second.
Oh,
For
I think I know what you're talking about then.
Yeah, drop your
Maybe, possibly, I don't
ratings in the comments for sure.
Yeah,
Stephanie, 4 stars. Yeah, I don't really do half stars on like when I actually like normally talk about it, but 4.5 is really where I feel about it is like I just feel like it's gonna grow even more anyways. So
Mm.
I'm gonna want to be able to rate the next book or books higher
Right.
than the first one. So part of that 0.5 is for that, and part of it is for one of the things I disliked was that the beginning felt super like City of Bones to me in like
So-
an annoying way. Like it bugged me because it felt so similar. Which
Oh, see,
is
I
fair
love
to
City
me,
of Bones, so
Like,
I'm sitting
I'm
there
a-
going, "Yay!"
Yeah, it was a
My-
big thing for me too.
My
I
thing
too
is
am
that I
obsessed with City of Bones, but it also bugged me. I don't know why
I've
I am
never-
the way I
I've never read any of those.
My thing is, it felt so different. Like the beginning of the book felt like a very different book than the end of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's just because like she's a debut author, and so there might be some pacing issues that she's gonna work out.
Yeah.
Like I have no doubt
True.
that the second book is gonna be amazing. I'm just like, it wasn't a perfect book.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You met Selwyn though, so I think that'll hit.
So for me to circle back to the fact that it felt familiar and it felt like,
Yeah.
so I sit back and I look at what are the archetypes, because it's not that this is about City of Bones, it's that both of them are archetypal stories. This is the normal person who has been drawn into this mystical world. And so I felt that as one of those archetypal stories, it was fulfilling, even though maybe they look similar. It's like the same reason that like people will sit there and say that Percy Jackson is the same as Harry Potter, but worse. And I'm just going to punch them in the face. But in the same way, I was like, it was fulfilling those archetypal beats that it needed to hit in order to be the story that it was going to be. I didn't notice the pacing. That might have partially been because I was listening to the audiobook and I was so invested in what the heck is going on with her mom and her memory and who is this, who's going to be the love interest? Like,
Mhm.
that was kind of me.
Yeah, for sure. So real quick, one thing, each person do one spoiler-free thing that you liked and one spoiler-free thing that you disliked.
It ended. That's the one I disliked.
Mm.
Hey, but it's book one.
I can't. So the one thing I disliked is a spoiler. Like,
Okay,
but
fair.
one of the things that I liked about this was, to me, I think this is not the first book she's written. I think she has been working with magic systems and history for a very long time, because the way she weaves the magic system with the historical context of this character's background and her life as it is now was just so well done that I'm sitting there going like, she's built this world and I thoroughly believe this world exists.
Mm-hmm. Brianna, do you have a like and a dislike you want to share that's spoiler free?
I mean, I love the characters, and like, even though I generally hate love triangles, I feel like this one might work.
Yes, same.
Oh my God, there's a love triangle.
Yes,
No.
Michelle.
It's a triad.
It's a triangle.
I don't care. I'm gonna love it.
Oh, should we have told you that like 3 weeks ago? Would that have helped?
Yeah, that would have helped. You'd have been like, Shello, there's a love triangle, and I'm like reading it right now.
Okay. Yes, there's a love triangle. Also, Kylo Ren stands. Cell is what Kylo Ren tried to be.
Could have been, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, anyways.
I'm so happy now. I can't wait to go back and read this.
Yeah.
Also, Sal is
Christine.
bisexual.
Well, obviously.
That's a spoiler.
That's not a spoiler. People's
Most
sexualities aren't
sexualities are
spoilers. He was bisexual from the first time we saw him, and I knew it.
That's true. He very much
Okay.
was.
But also, like, the diversity throughout, like, it didn't feel tokenism. Like, we have a non-binary character, but it doesn't feel like we were just like, oh, let's have a non-binary character and make, we'll use they, them pronouns for that person for no reason other than to be diverse. And I really, really appreciated that.
Yeah.
The only thing I didn't like was just the pacing of it, and I'll go into it a little bit more in spoilers. Like, one thing specifically bugged me. That was just the overall thing.
I am going to have to argue specifically with the fact that they were too young and should have all been college age. Number one, because like YA characters or kids deserve to see kids.
Okay.
Them. Like college, high school students is a thing. Like I was one of them. So like early enrollment is a thing in the United States. I don't know if it's that way in other countries, but it is a thing in the United States.
Yeah. And it's gotten a lot more popular in the last like 5
you have to at this
years
point
or so. It's very popular.
Yeah.
Christine, you okay over there, pal?
Yeah, Christine
well, I'm just saying, just because your post-secondary education is so absurdly expensive that you have to enroll in it through high school doesn't mean that that's how it should be. And it was
No.
certainly very uncomfortable reading a 16-year-old in some of those life situations.
Fair.
Yeah.
I was like, no, this is bad. Oh no, we lost her.
Wait, there's a 16-year-old?
She's
Brianna's
16, yeah.
16.
Yeah, and I was like, no, she's a baby girl whose mother just died, and her father was like, I'm gonna send you to a university campus. Like, oh my god, no,
Yeah.
send her to my house. Like, I'll wrap her in a blanket. Like,
Wow.
that was the only thing I didn't like about it.
I can see it on her
Oh.
face.
See, I was in college at 17 because it's free if you dual enroll.
That's what I'm
So-
saying. Then you're pressured to go younger than you should.
Mhm.
You just
Now, I
burst
wasn't
my
in-
fucking bubble.
Yeah. Well, the one redeeming factor is that the two love interests are also in this like early enrollment college program, so they're at least appropriate age.
Yeah.
Right, but
But-
do any of them read that way? Do any of them read 16 years old?
You're
Or do they all read 19, 20?
I
They all
don't
read 1920.
I don't really pay attention to the
They do. They do.
So my personal spoiler-free like and dislike was that, again, the beginning felt very formulaic and it felt very City of Bones, which, as much as I like, the Shadowhunter Chronicle is one of my favorite things of all time because it got me through, like, emotional attachment, got me through a hard time, that kind of thing. So it's like I will always be obsessed. But I'm the kind of person that, like, it bothers me when something is too similar. I like similar, but like not too similar. And for me, it felt too similar at times. But as the book went on, it definitely grew out of that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't necessarily like the biggest problem ever. But my favorite thing is probably the secret society vibe
Yes.
and how atmospheric it is. And the colors and the magic. I know that's so weird, but I'm obsessed with the colors and the smells in the magic.
Yes.
Like that, yes, I approve. So those are my spoiler-free thoughts. Did we have any other spoiler-free things we wanted to talk about?
I didn't say my like.
Oh, you
But-
say your like? Say your like. What do you like?
Didn't. What I will say about this is, as a historian, usually anything that tries to play with history pisses me off because A, it's poorly done, and B, it's like, and this is why history happened, and that's the reason I hate Wonder Woman, the movie. But this didn't. They were like, the last time this happened was the American Revolution, and I was like, no, you didn't go there. And then like, she's like, did you cause the American Revolution? And they're like, no, we were just there. And I was like, thank you. Thank you for like actually. I hate when they're like, the reason everything happened in history was because of magic. I was like, no, it's exploitative white men. Don't say like that. And they didn't try to change that. So I was like, thank God. It wasn't a demon. It was always the British. Like, so I was happy about that they actually did historical fiction, fantasy well. Like Tracy Dion did not try to erase history. She was like, let's add to it. And I like that.
Yeah.
And I think that definitely is a thread through the whole thing too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like,
I just didn't want to get into that thing that you're thinking of.
yeah, we'll get into that in a second. If we are spoiler-free thoughts, though, I do think that we are all wanting to go in more depth. So is there any other spoilery-free things that we want to say before we say goodbye to people?
I like the reflection of grief
Ooh,
Yeah.
Yes.
because, like, I'm going through that and like, just reading that, I'm like, highlighting almost everything.
Yeah,
so
it's
far.
really well done. The themes are really well done throughout the whole thing. The themes are like strong and clear, like you know what the themes are, but they're dealt with, in a range of ways. Like it's not like she's trying to touch on every way that you can see something, but she touches on a variety. Like, just with the grief, she represents, Bree's dealing with grief versus her dad's dealing with grief, even as something as simple as that. And other characters later on, but spoilers.
Yeah.
And I think
I think a lot of that has to do. Go ahead, Christine.
I was gonna say, in the acknowledgement, when you get to the acknowledgement, she says that she's the like third generation in her family to have their mothers die before they were 18 or something like that, or 20, something like that. Like too young to lose your mother.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like a legacy in her family. So a lot of her writing Bree's story was like really getting out her own story and like her own experience with like systematic racism. And I think in that way the grief was like very powerful. Like it's not just one person's grief, it's a legacy of grief,
Yeah.
an inherited grief. And I really love that.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the magic mystery worked so well, because did we lose me again?
Nope.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say I think that's why the magic. I'm good. Am I here?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're glitching.
Okay.
On the screen, but
okay, that's fine. I don't care if you can see me as long as you can hear me. I think that's part of why it works, because it was so personal. It's not somebody from the outside going, "Oh, I'm going to add this historical context and try and make something with it, and make it a theme." She's like, "This is my life, and I'm going to write it into this fictional world. I'm not going to shy away from it," and I really appreciate that.
100%.
Anyways,
Carrie, that is wow.
Really sorry to hear that.
Yeah, prayers for your family, for sure. And for you to, be able to, because like of all the times, the past 2 years, I'm sure have been rough for you because of everything last year on top of what you're dealing with. So definitely praying for you. And yeah, grief is definitely something that, when you see it in a book, when you get to experience it in a book, it helps you walk through feelings that you might not even recognize in yourself. So I liked seeing you say that, because it, that's one of the things I love about reading is walking through things that either I experience in my own life or I see in other people, and learning and growing because of it, even if it's a fictional story or a fictional character. There's so much you can learn and grow and experience from that. And that's something that I definitely think was done super well in this book because of the combination of both, grief and also like racism and the way that that's dealt with and addressed in this book. You see so much and you learn so much through the story, and I really love that. So yeah, definitely 100%. Being able to see people grow and learn more about themselves.
And I love the fact that it's not in your face, because there are some books that do things, especially with grief, they can just be like, this is a character that is grieving, but this was just so subtle, and it was just a part of who she was, that it didn't feel like the author was like slamming it in your face.
Right. It's just,
I agree.
It's just the reality. The way that things are explained in this book is like, this is just the way things are. And we're just living, like, this is our version of reality, because everybody has their own version of reality. And like, this is just the life that they're living. And that's just a fact to them. It's not, it's not blatantly screaming, flashing siren lights. It's just their everyday, And I really do think that she presented it really well in that way.
And I also think she did a good job with showing that trauma, like people have this idea that for PTSD to have happened, you have to have gone through something that was violent. And like trauma does not have to be violent to affect you.
Right.
Yeah,
100%.
exactly.
Do we have any other spoilery-free thoughts before we move into...
Just that people need to read it.
Oh, yeah.
Go read this book.
If you're about to leave because you don't know the spoilers, then come on.
Just go read the book.
Just go read it.
Go read it real quick. We'll give you like 5 seconds. Through it. It won't take you
5
long.
seconds.
Come back.
I promise you, for the twist that happens at the end, and I'm not even like, some people who have read it are probably thinking I'm thinking of one twist, but I'm thinking of a completely different twist. For the thing that happens at the end, it is totally worth it, because everything gets turned on its head.
Yeah.
That you would expect. And I'm not okay.
and the group chat will prove that.
Oh,
It's so funny because as Margaret was reading it, she would like text the other host and be like, "Oh my god, this!" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, she's at this part right now."
Right.
Yeah.
I've known you long enough.
Right.
You just kept asking me questions, and I'm like, I know what part you're at, so I'm just not gonna say anything.
Not gonna
I'm just gonna
Questions
not reply.
There was one thing that I didn't want to spoil. I wasn't sure where Michelle was, and or anyone else was, so I was just like yelling at Christine about it in all capital letters.
As is your reading experience with any book I've read before.
Not any book you've read before. I don't,
My
Only
sister
Gold.
saw the wall of text that you'd sent me about Chain of Gold, and she's like, Christine, like, you don't have to reply to her. Like, that's a lot. And I'm like, I do, though. I was like, I do.
He is trying to protect you from just my flailing.
She's like, you're going through a lot right now. You don't have to read that.
I only send the things that would entertain Christine because I know how she works with these things.
All right, so without any further ado, I'm going to say thank you to everybody who tuned in, who is going to be leaving from the spoilery section. And don't forget to go to everybody's channel and subscribe. And also make sure that you're in the Discord and on Twitter for the announcements for boss battles, things like that. Are all going to be coming up, so stay tuned for that. We are going to announce like the schedule and stuff like that for February soon, once we settle in on dates, so we will let you know very soon about all of that. And yeah, so if you're leaving, goodbye, get out of here.
We don't want to spoil
We're
you.
about to spoil
Yeah.
this book.
We don't want to
Enjoy Slay.
to read the book.
Yes,
I'm sorry,
enjoy
but
Slay. That's another one that
you
just
need to
hits
read the
you.
book. Yes, definitely. I'm
Blindsides
looking forward to
you.
reading Slay.
I'm
Like,
so
just
looking
the
forward to reading
premise sounds so good. I'm excited.
It's one of my favorites last year.
I'm ready.
Ew.
I was screaming at the end of that book. Oh my god.
So
Good screaming.
So first thing, spoilery section. I wanted to ask everybody, or like bring up the topic of like sensitivity and diversity and all of that theme, because it's so strong and so well done. And I know that you guys are also going to have some thoughts. So let's talk about that.
I really liked how the magic system was used. Okay, how do I say that? Okay, so it's often in YA, the conflict is a metaphor for real world issues.
Yeah.
Yes.
In this, real world issues were the magic system.
Yeah.
Like, it was just a microcosm of real racism
Yeah.
and real white supremacy, and I thought that was probably one of the best jobs of handling a real world issue in YA that I've ever seen.
Yeah, I agree.
I liked how, because
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, because so often, like, especially the author will act like the magic system is a haven from this racism, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Like, if there is a racism in the magic system, it's a made up racism. But this was like, no, what is in our real world is also in this magic system, and I thought that was just obviously, brilliant. So
Agree. And I really liked how we got these like cultural elements within it too, people who call it root, people who call it Ather, because of just the way they were raised. It's the same thing, but it's different, and like that's to me almost like a parallel to like, religious beliefs where, they're called different things, or
But they're the same.
they might be the same thing, but they're also very different in some ways, that kind of thing. So I really enjoyed that element of it, and that it was like, because of where you come from, your history, how you're taught, but it's, and like that's, I don't know how to explain it other than that. Like,
well,
I just thought it was a really cool way to, because we don't see that in magic systems. Really, we don't see like your culture influencing what you call the magic. I haven't seen that very much. if at
And
all.
I think the root craft also being reflective of like a West African and
Yeah.
African American diasporic tradition being
Yeah.
interwoven with Welsh mythology was like the cultural fusion I didn't know I needed. And like it felt so authentic to this author's experience, to Tracy Dion's like own imagination. Like it felt like such a personal book for her, and
Yeah.
yeah,
100%.
like it told me how much of a nerd she is.
Yes.
Love.
I was like, oh wow, I love that's part of why I loved Brie, because I was like, Brie's a nerd like me.
She's a big nerd.
Yeah.
Like, did you just quote this at me? Like,
Yeah,
That
I love
one
that.
of my favorite things. Did you just Jane Austen me? Every quote was, "Did you just blink?"
Yeah, I
Yeah,
definitely, that was me in high school. Me and my friends like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and all of that. So
Yeah, I definitely agree. What about so we kind of already talked about the world a little bit. We haven't gotten into character and relationship stuff yet. So let's go ahead and dive into the depths.
I don't know. I like them both. Yeah, we know what Christine wants. We will see if that's what she
like I am so
Dion does.
hoping, I am so hoping that it's actually like a throuple.
it has all the
whatever we
potential
wanna
in the
call
world.
it, but like it's YA, and I don't know that she'll go there.
If it's not a throuple, Nick better be kicked off a tower.
Oh, okay. Because that's gonna get into. So
Here's the thing, Margaret.
okay.
Nick was all like, "Don't worry, I'll protect you from the racists. Don't worry."
Oh God.
You're like,
right though. Ooh.
And Selwyn like actually was not like showboating about, like he's just kind of like actually helpful. So
Yeah. When he's not trying to kill her.
after that,
Look, you have to deal with some trauma, okay?
Yeah. So
fenestrate him, yes.
I have issues with Nick and Sel because of the power dynamic that's there. However, we can do things about that considering how things have gone. But I just have to say that the fact that they turned the Guinevere Arthur Lancelot thing on its head has me hardcore. Like there was a point where I was like, no, Nick abused his power. I'm not happy. Like when he hit Selwyn, knowing that Selwyn couldn't hit him back, I was just like, I don't like, whoa, hold up. No, this
another
is
point off for Nick and another point for Selwyn.
But then we found out who's Scion, and I was like, this is, oh my God.
Margaret's brain.
I'm back into it.
I spent the whole book trying to figure out if she was Guinevere or Nimue, and Tracy Dion called me a misogynist.
I
That's what happened.
to be Morgana, and I was expecting, like, I still am expecting Bree to be the one that really just undoes this blood magic thing that's happened because it is harmful and it's a kind of a vestige of colonialism. I'm expecting that to be undone by the end. Yeah, but like the fact, I just like that, and that wasn't even what broke me. It's who Lancelot's scion was that broke me, because I was like not expecting that at all. I was expecting what happened with Bree. Right. I was not expecting Lancelot.
I was expecting Bree to be Lancelot by the end.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me
too. Sel is Merlin.
Oh, baby.
That's the only position for him. He's baby.
Like, do we really think that they with such an intricate spell, they would have taken Arthur's wife and let her have a place in that society? No. No.
So, one thing that I really love is the character development of Bree. Yeah. Like her arc is so good, and like seeing her work through and like getting through that before and after Bree thing that she kind of had created, and the walls, you know, that she had created for herself, and seeing her break that down. Obsessed, because we don't get enough good main character development. And like my thing is like I often am not always as obsessed with the main character as I am with a side character. But regardless of whether I find the main character annoying or not, they should have a good arc. And I don't think we get enough of that, and that is one thing that I think that, we were talking about City of Bones earlier. I think that Bree's character arc is way better than Clary's.
Oh God, yeah.
Because Clary's, it's not really about her growing as a person so much as her getting her mom back and her figuring out her place in this new world. Bree, it's about her trying to figure out herself and how to deal with the things that are happening in her life.
Especially when you find out her mom just died.
Yeah.
Like, she did all this work and it's like, no, like nobody murdered her.
Yeah.
She just died.
Right.
Yeah.
Real quick, Michelle needs to go. So let's
Okay.
let her say goodbye.
Yeah, it's the ice is cake. So since we're in the spoilers and I'm not there yet, this was super duper fun. And I'll see you all later. Have fun with your spoilery section.
Happy birthday,
Bye,
Soren!
Michelle. Happy birthday, Soren! Bye.
Yes.
Okay. So to go back to your point, Brie, I think that's part of why it didn't bother me, because yes, it's like City of Bones, but it did what City of Bones was trying to do so much better.
Yeah.
Like,
that's also
when you
what I like about it.
When you get down to how she's imparting the information, to how she's doing the characters, to how she's setting up the world and the plot, like, it was Cassie Clare's first book, and you can tell it was Cassie Clare's first book, if that makes sense.
Right.
This one, I would not have guessed this was her first book if I did not know.
Especially the complexity of the magic system, like how well thought out it is. Holy shit.
Yes. Oh my God.
Okay, but can we talk about the fact that, like, at the beginning, they're getting in trouble for, like, being off campus or whatever, and, like, that's, like, a big part. And then by, like, 30% of the way into the book, we just, like, forget that that's a thing.
True.
Yeah.
That was also my problem with her being 16. I was like,
Right.
taking her to a cliff jumping party to die.
I was like, if we're gonna, like, I mean, they spent, like, 2 or 3 chapters with, like, the aftermath of, like, getting ground. Whoa, we're gonna get expelled, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, after that, it's just like, you're off campus. It's, like, been 2 days.
She's a 16-year-old. She should need, like, a permission slip to leave campus.
Yeah, that I think.
See, I just assumed that was because of the college program, because, like, once she got into the Legendborn, they would have cleared the way, because they probably did it for the other Legendborn that were in, like, that, because all of the Legendborn are brought over as a part of the early college program.
I just feel like it would have just been better if we just didn't even have that at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because then we would have had to explain it. But now we're sitting here questioning, being like, did you forget we did that at the begining of the book?
But if we hadn't had that at the beginning, she wouldn't have been assigned to Nick.
There could have been other ways.
So.
Just saying. Like, that's the thing that bugged me. And I'm like, I feel like this is 2 separate books.
Yeah, that part did kind of bug me a little bit. It did, like, at the beginning feel a little bit like with that, and also the thing with Alice, a little bit, like, her arguments with Alice in the beginning kind of bugged me a little bit. I didn't like the way that some of that, like,
Alice was mean, man.
Yeah,
like,
you know,
you're a drug addict now, and I hate you. And I was like, whoa, Alice. Okay.
It was like, she knows that it's not been that long since her mother passed. So why is she acting like she should be
normal? Yeah.
Why are you expecting her to not be dealing with things badly? It's
also, bro, if somebody told on me to my dad and I wasn't even in actual danger. I mean, she was, because there's monsters, but, like, Alice didn't know that. Someone messages my dad behind my back.
Well, to me, it was more like just the things that she said to Bree.
Yeah.
In the circumstance, because of, like, you know, she's dealing with the grief and she's trying to settle into a new place. That's a lot to take in, and it's gonna take her some time to, you know, feel like herself. And yeah, she needed help, but at the same time, telling
See-
her and talking down to her the way she did, and like, again, that's a character development thing in some ways, but I just felt like it was a little sudden to, like, we didn't see very much happy at the beginning of the book between them. It was more like after they got over that we got to see them, like, settle into their relationship.
That felt very realistic. And not like, I've never had to deal with grief like this, but I've seen how society treats people who deal with grief, and we do expect them to be fine after a very short amount of time. So that, while I was frustrated with it, I knew a lot of that was because Alice was 16 and she didn't understand, she never had a loss like that. So she didn't understand it. So I was just like, that's just the whole American, I don't know if it's American, but like, to me, the whole American culture of like, okay, you're fine now. Yeah, true.
This is also a good point.
That's why you don't send them to college.
True.
What are you thinking, America?
Yeah, it's a really good point. As far as other relationships, I wanted to know what everybody's ship is. Obviously, I know that all of us
Fuck if I know.
We're all saying throuple. So if it's not throuple, what is your ship?
Okay, William with happiness.
At the moment, because Nick is Lancelot. What? Like, that was so brilliant, and I should have seen it coming. I just was assuming that, like, he was going to be a Davis and she was going to be a Davis, and it's Jason Clary all over again.
Oh.
But no,
It's not happening.
That's a lot. And I'm sitting there going, what a way to turn the Arthur Lancelot Guinevere thing on its head. So, like, I am hardcore going for that one, but at the same time, I'm seriously vibing with her and Cell now that they are a team and he's not trying to kill her. Like, I had so much issue with Cell at the beginning, not because, like,
None.
Yeah, I just,
so it was funny.
He was so mean to her. I was just like, for no reason.
Christine had finished, I think Christine finished the book first.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Christine's like, oh, I'm Team Cell, and I'm like, I'm reading it and I'm not talking about kind of an ass. And I was like, Christine, are you okay? Blink if you need help.
But the thing is, Brianna,
I knew exactly.
I was Team Cell from the first fucking chapter. The first time he was rude, I was like, wow.
That is exactly what I was expecting from Christine. So I was not surprised by that at all.
Listen, this is how interconnected bisexuals are, is that we can actually sense fictional bisexuals too. Because it was just like, yeah, that's me. I get that. That's one of us, you know?
Anyways,
theory or this idea of this whole Alice and Nick thing, I could be down with that.
Alice is gay, isn't she?
I can't remember if she's bi or.
Pretty sure, because
I'm pretty sure she's gay.
Yeah, Brie was like, are there any girls that you've been into? Not any people. Like, it was specifically girls.
So if the bloodlines get taken down the way I think they're going to be, it won't be a problem. However, I'm not mad that Cell is an option.
Yeah. I would say I'm Team Cell if it doesn't end up being.
I'm also Team Alice squiring for William.
Ooh,
yes.
That's
definitely happening.
That's what I want.
They lost so many. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't like Fitz, right? He was the one that was
don't
really
even
racist
remember
to her, right?
There was so many of them.
Because I'm reading it and they kill when he dies. I'm just like, why are we sad about this? He's part of the reason that Vaughn was awful to you.
I remember Greer.
I love Greer.
Yeah,
that's it. Out of all this, like the tertiary characters, I remember Greer.
It was the pause after you said Greer for me. Like as if you were gonna say somebody else and you did.
I was like, I think there was a Sydney maybe, and then there was a bunch of white men. And yeah,
Witty.
Oh yeah, never mind. Now that you say witty, I am. Yep, that's true.
So I also wanted everybody to talk about theories. Do you have any theories about what you think is going to happen?
I've already said she's gonna undo all of the bloodlines. Like she's gotta undo that spell. That just feels like where we're headed at the end of this duology trilogy, whatever the heck it is. I don't know. Like that's what it feels like we're gonna go.
Here's my thing, and I'm not someone who usually does theories, but this one makes me want to do it even less because everything I thought was going to happen,
yes,
did not.
Oh,
so I don't want to go into it being like, yeah, she's going to do it this way because she's probably not.
Mm-hmm.
See, the minute we went back to Grandma, like I knew she was going to be the Arthur's scion. Like that was something that I felt at the beginning, and I'm like, is it Arthur? Is it Morgaine? Like I expected that one. Like very, except for the Nick Lancelot reveal, very little about this book actually like surprised me. Like there were some things I was like, oh wow,
everything.
Like you did, but I don't think any of the big twists really surprised me because I was like, oh yeah, this makes sense. Yeah, this makes sense. Oh, now we're having sexual tension between Bree and Sel. That makes sense.
So my feeling is that the things that they say that happens to the Merlins don't actually happen.
Not true. Absolutely not
it's
true.
Definitely a myth, right?
Yeah.
And then the Merlin, I feel like the Merlins and the Rootcraft people have to end the white people is what's going to happen.
You say that, but I'm pretty sure Sel is a white people.
Yeah, that's true also. But they're like the working class whites in this situation. Yeah. Just like stop working for your oppressors for 1 minute and like think about it.
There's definitely some manipulation going on there. And like the minute she said that, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Because that would be very
every power.
Well, I mean, they were setting that up for that because Arthur is able to possess her in a way that no one else has ever had happen.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So
hopefully that's a good point. I have a couple theories. Earlier on in the book, before it was clear, I wrote down theory. Sel's mom is going to have something to do with this whole bracelet thing.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And then that got clarified. But then I also think that the whole succumbing thing is a lie.
Yeah.
And that the order is, I'm 100% sure that obviously is just a controlling thing. And I think it's because she didn't want to do what Davis wanted, or because she found out something about Davis and so they got rid of her.
They're like doing impressed labor to sorcerers. So
right. Mm-hmm. I also feel like that possibly in the relationship situation, there's a possibility that maybe Nick is going to go bad.
Oh, and that's there.
Like, I feel like there's definitely a good possibility that he's going to become like part of the bad guy side. And that is going to lend itself to being the Bree and Sel situation.
I think it's going to depend on like who the bad guy is, because I cannot for a minute see him joining up with his father for anything except to protect Bree. Yeah.
I don't know. Just part of it to me is like, I think this whole new development with her being the Scion is going to affect like his perspective on things. And he's going to be like, and like, this is a good point too.
Oh yeah. Lancelot betraying Arthur.
Like, that's kind of where I'm thinking, like, I just feel like now that we have this new information, there's a possibility that he's going to,
I never wanted to be king, but now that somebody else is, that's just so offensive to my sensibilities.
Yeah. So the thing about Lancelot and Arthur is, yes, the betrayal happens, but that's part of one of my, but they also do reconcile at the end before everything happens.
Right.
So maybe it'll be like a Loki situation.
Loki just likes chaos. Okay, guys. That's how Loki works. Like, there's no good bad with Loki.
He's my favorite.
I love it.
But no, I think that definitely there are ways that Nick can be manipulated. And I was thinking the same thing when after he'd been kidnapped and everything, thinking about that. I wasn't thinking about the Lancelot, but it is definitely setting up for him to, at least in some way, betray or be working against them for a bit.
Sorry, Margaret, just to clarify, were you or were you not expecting him to be Lancelot?
I was not.
Oh, sorry. I don't think I heard that the first few times.
I was not expecting him to be Lancelot.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Wait, why are we clarifying this?
Just because every other sentence is Nick Lancelot.
So, anyways,
you had to also see the group chat plus probably what Margaret
the private chat as well.
separately.
Yeah.
I will screenshot the private chat and put it in the group in the Discord if people want. I am fine with that.
Yeah, this is kind of like what I was thinking might be a possibility too. I would definitely kind of see that.
You can see that.
Kind of thing happening, but I feel like that kind of thing is going to be why it doesn't end up as a triad.
Yeah.
You know, like,
and the other thing is like I just don't have enough faith that Nick isn't actually like
a rich entitled white man.
Yeah. Like he's like, I don't want this life, but I don't actually think that he's done any reading.
Right. He doesn't know what he wants.
I don't think he actually thinks about stuff. He's like, I'll protect you from racism.
He's a woke white feminist.
Dumb?
Is what you're saying.
Like, yeah. Yeah, you know, like, so I just.
No, I think you're right. Like, so for me, for Nick to work for me as the main love interest, there is a lot of stuff that he needs to confront and atone for and come to grips with, like the whole power dynamic thing with Cell. He needs to have a come to Jesus moment over what he did there and know that that is something that cannot, like, we need to see him actually suffer making the choice not to repeat that mistake, in my opinion.
That's good. Good thought.
So, but like, I do still like the idea of, wait, Lancelot and Arthur? What? Anyways.
It's good. Selwyn and success.
Wait, but was there a history between Cell and Nick, or is it just that Cell likes Nick?
Cell was
in love with him.
Okay,
Cell is the Alec Lightwood of the situation.
But it wasn't reciprocated. Okay.
The Alec Lightwood of the situation. You're right.
Nick is Jay. Clearly, well, actually, yeah, clearly, Nick is Jace, Bree is Clary, if we're going that way, and then Cell would be Alec.
You know, there were times where I also saw Cell and Nick as Jem and Will.
Which is another throuple.
Right. And like, especially because like at one point they were talking about one of them playing sports and the other one playing violin.
What? I
That's
missed that
literally
one
Will and
completely.
Jem.
I missed that completely.
One of them plays violin. Well, 100%. Let me find it. I have it tabbed.
Yeah, I like that with the, like, I saw their moms being friends. I love it when those things are also carried forward in stuff. Where was the quote? Oh, what was the quote I sent you, Christine, that I was so offended by? What was it? It was like, what, war is opportunity?
Yeah,
all wars are opportunities. I was just like, God, what is that? I said, what white colonialist bullshit.
Of course, it came out of a Carolina.
I'm not surprised. It came out of a Southern man. I'm not surprised.
Nick in a peewee football uniform, grinning wide, Cell at a violin recital, looking thin and dour, even as a small child.
Wow, that is Will and Jem.
Right?
Okay, listen, everybody.
Right?
So anyway.
Oh this is too good. You guys, I can't.
Everyone should be Magnus. Magnus is living the best life, clearly.
This one. This.
I mean...
Yes! That's my ideal.
This though. I'm just saying. Did we have any other bookish things that we wanted to talk about before we do a little bit of Q&A?
Just that scene with the grandmother and like the time and the understanding, that was like really, really beautiful for me. I think that was my favorite part of the entire book.
Yeah.
I love that part. The grandmother in general being
was so
in
funny.
her, in her hanging out like through all of these dramatic things, and she's just chilling.
Yeah. And it did show that she has some, even though her mom and her, or even though her grandmother was dead, that she had older Black women in her life because she had experiences to be like, oh, yep, this is what grandmas do. So that was good to see.
Yeah,
so
100%.
I mean, she probably had on her dad's side. I completely forgot that her dad is still alive.
Yeah. True.
I want it. Bree did not want the grandmother
for any longer.
For longer. Right. She's like, oh my God,
I agree with Savannah.
I agree with this 100%. Yeah. I also feel like the representation of the South was really good. I live in Tennessee. So I can definitely vouch for that.
Yeah.
That it was very accurate representation of white people and
the nice Southern white people.
Yeah, Southern people in general, white people in the South, but also like just Southernisms and
the white moms when Bree was chosen.
Oh my God,
that was visceral.
I wanted to punch people,
but it was visceral. Like that's just like real,
right?
Like no magic needed.
Yeah,
same though. I love it.
That is an interesting point that Jessica has. I'm like, wait a minute. She was like not that old when she died.
Maybe your spirit ages.
Yeah, I was about to say maybe her spirit, because I mean, if you're a spirit for that long,
yeah,
it probably is, like Magnus. Sometimes he acts like he's not as old as he is, but then other times,
then sometimes he walks in on teenagers who should not be having sex, and he's like, "I'm too old for this shit."
And he's like, "Saw this senior ancestors doing." One of my favorite lines of his: "I've caught your ancestors doing worse." So good.
Oh man,
so good. So before we leave, if you have any questions that you want to ask, drop those in the chat so that we can get to those. In the meantime,
oh yes, Greer, Bree, and then also Bree and Sarah. I like that we had, like, even though she is entering this world where she is the only one, basically, like she's who was it that was being rude about the fact that she was the first Black person to be a part of this group?
Literally everyone.
But there was somebody like when they were introducing, like they said it was the most diverse group.
Tor.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes so much sense that she is the way that she is at the end too. God.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that like she still was given people there that kind of were able to connect with her on that. She wasn't alone. And
I like that they could like Sarah and Greer could they're like, we know it's not as bad for us as it is for you.
Yeah.
But like we know that like being able to be like intersectional about that. Like
yeah.
And be like
we have your back.
Even if we don't really understand.
We have your back. And that was good.
Yeah.
100%. So just a reminder that the channels will all be linked down below for everything, and announcements will be in the Discord for everything. And again, the February group book is Slay by Brittany Morris, and the item is the Arc Reactor. And all of the February characters have been posted, and their boards are available. So make sure that you go check Discord for all of that. And I'm not seeing any questions, so I think we are good there. Yes, freaking preach.
Yes.
My hair is naturally curly, and I've had it long for a lot of my life, and I'm not even like.
You're white.
Close. Yeah. Like I'm not even, even
people don't see you as exotic. Basically,
exactly. It's but not. It's So being in that situation where it's like that's just like another level that I just that part like
Strangers think they can say the strangest things. Like, I remember being at a Dairy Queen, just minding my business, and some old guy comes over and he leans down. And so, for those of you who don't know, I have eczema, and so my face is like bright red 90% of the time, and especially back then because my skin was the worst it's ever been at that point. And he said, he's like, leans over my table and is like, "You've been getting some sun over the weekend." And I was like, "No." Like, the fact that he felt the need that he could comment about anything about me, like, just was so rude. And people think that they can like the only people I don't mind commenting, like, I've had some like medical professionals and go, "Oh, is that eczema?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they like, but they know, like, they see what it is.
Right. But even
But
then, like, that's not a like, why?
Well, for me, if it's a medical professional, like, because they're checking in on me a lot of the time, like, they'll be like,
okay,
but yeah,
yes, if you're at a doctor's appointment, but like someone in a grocery store.
Right.
Yeah, well, no, yeah. Well, so the one that I remember, I was a receptionist, and like, she kind of was she's like, "Oh, is that eczema?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And she kind of started asking me some questions. Like, so it was one of those exchanges where you could tell it wasn't just her trying to be curious. It was her being like, "Okay, this is what I do." And I have experience with this. Like, I had a customer, like, that's one of those things, like, when you have skin conditions, especially like one like eczema, psoriasis, like, I had customers that'd be like, "Oh, like, I have eczema," like we talk about it. Yeah. And a lot of the time I would do that because I know things that have worked for me, and I would see similar things and I'd be like, "Yeah, oh man, it looks like, I have the same thing." And, when we'll talk about it, and as we talk about it, like, "Have you tried this?" Because, like, for me, just one supplement made the difference.
Right.
I'm more careful about how I do that on Twitter because it's harder to build relationships. But I'm like, "Hey, if you want help, let me know."
Yeah. You don't want to come off the wrong way, but like,
like, unneeded.
I'll be like, "Yeah, I know that feeling. It sucks."
Right. 100%.
Yes.
Yes. This has been a great time.
Yeah.
This has been a great time. I am really excited to continue with this reading challenge and to get into next months, because I feel like next month we're gonna have a lot of thoughts too.
Yeah.
Because like between the movies and the book is gonna be such
a huge difference.
Juxtaposition of thoughts. But I think it's going to be an adventure. So make sure that you read the book and watch the movies with us so that you can join in for that live show, because it's going to be a time.
And collect Falcon.
There are going to be thoughts.
My favorite part, I sat down and I was thinking about it, like, this is actually, like, because I was saying, "Oh, I'm going to do all the boards. That's so ridiculous." But then I sat down and thought about how we're releasing the boards and how, like, this works. I was like, actually, it's not that unattainable to get all of the boards if you're diligent about getting, like, 2 or 3 every month. That's all you need to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
and if you like once you start using the rewards,
it really stacks up.
Yeah. So it's going to be a great time. And I'm excited to see how everyone does for their boards. Lord, please help me finish a board in the next century.
Between now and 21,
you have
21.
a year, Bree. We've got a year.
11 months, yeah. No, we have 11 months.
Oh my goodness.
That's true.
That's a year, Christine.
No, it's not.
It's not quite.
That's a year.
It's just under one.
I have a year, Christine.
Yes.
No.
What's the boss battle?
Meant to do the Jan Rog boss battle and then just got caught up with work and everything yesterday. I was just like, I have a picture on my phone. And I was just like, it's fine.
You could have used bitter blue. You could have used bitter
That is
blue.
amazing. I love it. That is brilliant.
Well, do you
I'm gonna
already
start
have
doing
your
that for
board?
myself.
Because then you can just pretend like you did the boss battle.
Yes.
So, yeah, we'll see.
All right. So thank you guys for tuning in and hanging with us till the end, because we still have quite a few people here at the end. So that's pretty awesome.
Yes.
And again, thank you to my lovely people that are here with me that have joined on my channel today and who let me hang out with them and be nerds together, because, I'm usually a loner and I stay in my own little corner of the internet. So friendship is good, and I should probably try to have more of it. So thanks for letting me join you.
There are a lot of Disney nerds out there.
Well,
is
and a
true.
big shout out to Bree for all the graphics you do.
Right?
Yes, yeah.
You do a shit ton of graphics,
90% of our graphics are Brie.
and I get messages about how good they are. So
Nice.
Well, I do my best.
thank you.
So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day or night, whatever time it is for you. Make sure to subscribe to not just my channel, but also everybody else's channel. I'm going to make sure they are linked for you. I forgot to link them in the description before, but I will add them in just a second once we are done here. What do you guys have coming up on your channels? Do you have anything you want to plug real quick?
The Winter Keep live show for the Grey Sling Along we haven't actually made this official announcement yet, so don't tell Sarah I said this. It's probably going to be on February 13th. So if you've read Winter Keep by Kristen Kishore and you want to talk about it, Margaret and I will be there.
Yes, we will. I'm also doing a impromptu, casual booktube kind of watch-a-thon where I'm just gonna it's not anything we're gonna do special, live show or anything, but just hey, on the 13th, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna watch some booktube. And
including our live show.
Including, the live show is going to be a part of that. I don't think so. I'm doing some videos, but I can't talk about any of the ones I'm doing yet because they're surprises.
Mysterious.
Possibly.
I have no idea what's going up on my channel other than every vlog is gonna have puppies in it.
Puppies in it.
That's exciting enough.
So
we're gonna get Brianna to set up a puppy cam, and she's just gonna be on her channel 24/7. We will always see dogs.
Now that it would be some watch time.
Yeah.
Chilled owl level of continuity.
Margaret, you needed your watch time hours. I'll just do it on your channel.
I would just put it up on the screen in my classroom all the time, so it was always puppies in the background.
I do have unlimited StreamYard right now, Brianna. So if we wanted to do that, we could make it happen.
I love it. As for me, what's coming up, I will be reading Perks of Being a Wallflower for the first time.
Ooh.
So I'm going to have some videos about that coming up, or a video about that, and it'll be a good time. So we'll see how that goes. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you soon and talk to you in Discord in the meantime. Bye.
Bye, Avengers.
Oh, Avengers assemble!
Yes.
No, we're disassembling right now.
Oh, yeah, Avengers disassemble.